Hi everyone, it is Beth with Flying by the Seed of My Plants, and today I am planting my onions, starting them from seed. In the past, I have typically ordered from Dixondale. If you check out their website, if you want to order sets of onions from them, it's a great company. That's what they do, they grow onions. But you could put an order in with them and they ship it to you when it's time for you to plant in your area. So when I have ordered from them, you put in your zip code and it knows when to send those onions to me. And typically, last year I did it by seed and also ordered from Dixondale. This year, I'm just going to do it all by seed. And you know, I went on their website and they give you great information on planting your onions, fertilizing your onions, and I'm just going to go over some of the basic things, but all this information I've gotten from Dixondale, so it's a good resource, you know, if you're planting onions. So the one thing to keep in mind is what area you're in. So I'm in Northeast Ohio, so the onions that I should be planting in my area is long day onion. That requires 14 to 16 hours of sun. And in the summertime, we have long summer days. So the next set would be the I can't read my own handwriting. Intermediate. It looked like indeterminate, and I'm like, I know that's not right. So anyhow, intermediate. They require 12 to 14 hours. So that is in the middle of the United States. And if you Google, you know, onion planting resource, it's even on Dixondale. I can't remember what I Googled, but you can find a map of your area and what kind of onion you should be planting. So intermediate is 12 to 14 hours. And then farther down south is short day. So that requires 10 to 12 hours of sun. So that's really important when you're deciding what onions to plant. The other is the different fertilizers. So I have gotten my fertilizer, and I got this like maybe 3 years ago now from Dixondale. And this is a 10-20-10 onion special fertilizer. And right now I'm not adding this, but when I plant my onions in the ground, I will be using this. And this is when I plant. And another thing on Dixondale, they do give instructions on how to use the fertilizer. But it's very important that you do fertilize your onion plants when you plant them. They are a heavy feeder. So, and you have to dig like a trench, and then 4 inches to one side, that's where you're going to plant your onions. You don't want to plant it right on top of the fertilizer. So this has 10% nitrogen, 20% phosphate, and 10% potassium. So, and then it has some other magnesium and copper, iron, boron in here as well. So this is when I plant my onions outside, this is the fertilizer I'm going to fertilize it with in the beginning. So I'll do those furrows. And then after 3 weeks after planting, then I'm going to switch to just a very high nitrogen fertilizer. And you're going to fertilize with the nitrogen every 2 to 3 weeks, and they are heavy feeders. Every 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to fertilize the onion bed, or you know, where you put your onions, until they start bulbing. Once they start bulbing, then you don't have to fertilize anymore, and you will just water. And then once about 4 weeks, when they start getting larger, about 4 weeks before you're ready to harvest, you won't even need to water them. So onions are really easy to grow. I mean, there's just some steps you have to follow and to get the best onions. I do not buy the, years and years ago, I would buy like the onion sets that came in the mesh bag, whatever, the ones from the commercial greenhouse. You know, it comes in a bag like that, and you might get like 25 onion bulbs that are about that big. They never really produced a big onion. And I didn't fertilize as much as I should have, so maybe that was part of it. But those are like your second year onion, and they concentrate more on going to seed with the second year. If you are starting from seed, it's going to concentrate on creating those bulbs. So the first one I'm planting is the Walla Walla, and I'll show you the containers that I have. And so, as far as the switching to the nitrogen, after planting them in the ground and using like a 10-20, a well-balanced fertilizer when you first put them in, after 3 weeks, I'll be switching to, I bought a bag of the ammonium sulfate. It has 21% nitrogen in it. Another heavy nitrogen, in fact, it's all nitrogen, is blood meal. So it has 13% blood meal. So you can kind of double that dose next to your onions to get a high dose of nitrogen. So that is after 3 weeks, you're going to switch to the nitrogen, which when I put them in the ground, I'll show you all that again. And then after 3 weeks from planting, that's when I'm going to switch over to the nitrogen. And it's every 2 to 3 weeks, and then it's straight nitrogen until they start bulbing, and then that's when you can stop fertilizing. Because what happens is the nitrogen is going to help that green growth. So you know how the onions have the green going up, and every new one that comes up is another layer of the onion. So that's where it's developing the big bulb. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I plant my seeds for my onions. The first one I'm working on is the Walla Walla onion. And these you start 8 to 10 weeks before my last frost is what's on here. I will be actually planting before my last frost is predicted. April 27th is our last frost in my area. But I'm going to be planting these beginning of April. So, you know, as soon as the ground is workable, so hopefully, you know, spring will be starting and the ground will be getting workable. And I'm doing them in a raised bed. You don't want to plant them in like a compact soil. You want a nice loose soil. So anyhow, yeah, the onions, because typically when I did order from Dixondale, and like I said, anything you want to look up for information on planting onions, I would go to Dixondale, their website. That's what they do. They do onions, and they're a great company. And even if you want to order onions, I would go on there now, and you could start checking out what onions you want to order, and they will ship it to you when it's ready for you to plant in your area. So they usually get it to me. The end of March is when they start shipping to me, and so it's usually the last week of March that I actually get them. So, and if you go on that website, when they tell you to start planting is about 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost. So I'm going to keep doing that. So, all right, so the first one I'm doing is the Walla Walla, and the seeds are very little. So I got this little jar, and because the seeds are just really tiny, and I poured them in here, so I'm going to kind of divide it in half, and I'll show you what containers I'm putting in. So I'm going to adjust the camera. Okay, so I went ahead and prepared all the pots for me to be starting my onions in. And I went ahead and got my markers already. And I went ahead and put them in this little jar because the seeds are so little, and I want to divide them into 2 separate pots. And this is how I usually plant my onions. I use a deeper pot like this. So it's probably like 5 inches deep. And the diameter is probably about 5 or 6 inches on the top. and filled it up with potting soil. And the potting soil that I used was the Eskimo Organic Moisture Potting Soil. I am not using a seed starting mix for this at all. All my plants actually are going to go into this. And filling up these pots, I noticed there was not as many sticks as I was finding in like Happy Frog and different things like that. So already I'm starting to like this. Plus it has mycorrhiza in the potting mix. And I went ahead and I bought some too. I'm not adding it to this soil, but this is really makes some nice and healthy roots. This was expensive. They have different ones, so you got to research it. But mycorrhizal inoculants is what I ordered. It is a small plant. It says it treats like 68 plants. So I'm not even going to use this until I start up potting. My peppers and tomatoes mainly is what I will be using this on. So, and okay, so getting back to my seeds. Here is the, move this up front so you can see it better. And I'll start with the Walla Walla. This Walla Walla front. So I put all the potting mix in and I pre-moistened my soil really good. In fact, there's water now in the bottom of this tray, and I will be dumping that shortly. But I just wanted to make sure that it was well moistened before I put my seeds in, because these are larger pots. So, and I like it that it's deep because I want the roots to be established. So a deeper pot. I'm not using the small seed starting cells. So I am doing this. All right, so I'm going to take about half what's in this jar. And the seeds that I got were from M.I. Gardner, the Walla Walla, and approximately 75 seeds are in there. It's probably about 75 in there. So this one I have prepared for Walla Walla. And I'm just going to sprinkle it. Okay, that's the first one. And I'm just going to take a little bit of the soil. I'm going to break it up a little. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this on top. Not a lot. Just enough to really cover the seeds. And then I'll be taking this tray over to the sink. And I'm going to water everything in on top really good again. Okay, so that was probably about 35 seeds in this one. And then I have these. I don't know if I can bring it in closer or not. You know what? Let me see. Okay, here's the other one. And I just pick them up a little few in my hand, my fingers, and just drop them. Spreading them out so they're not like one big pile. And these are for the Walla Walla. I'm doing bunching onions, and I'll show you I do those a little bit different. I'm going to sprinkle some soil on top. I'm not going to put a whole bunch. Okay, so the Walla Walla is done. And the next I'm going to do is the ruby red. I'm just going to do the same identical thing. So bring this up close. Oop, that's bunching onions. Ruby red are going in these 2 containers. Now the ruby red, there's about 250 seeds in here in this packet, which I got from M.I. Gardener. So I'm not going to plant all 250. So this here I just took out, which, I don't know, there's probably 70 seeds there. And I'll put in that little jar I had. Seal this back up really good, and I'm going to put it back in my seed collection. Actually, I'm going to put some tape on there because I don't want any seeds falling out in my container. Because when I store it, if they fall into my container with other packets of seed, I might not know which seed that belongs to. Okay, here's ruby red and ruby red. I'm going to do the same thing. Take about half of this jar. And spread the seed. Just kind of like sprinkling them. Okay, and now this container I have marked for ruby red. Sprinkle them around. And put some of the soil on top. Just lightly. You can actually just kind of stir the soil that you have just to get them in, but I just don't want to rearrange the seeds that I have right now. So I am sprinkling that on top. And then I'm going to take it over the sink and I'm going to water this really good. So, okay, I'm going to put this back here. And the next one I'm going to work on are the bunching onions. So I have the green bunching onions going in here. And bunching onions, when you plant them, I mean, it's just like the name says, they're bunching. So when I plant them, when these grow, the bunching onions, and I'll probably be planting them right around the same time, maybe a little bit later. And like I said, the roots are very resilient. And I will pull like 5 or 6 onions together and plant them in one spot. So a lot of times I will plant these, we'll put the seeds in like, all right, these are the evergreen bunching onions. So when I put the seeds in for the way I do these, and I love the bunching onions, I will plant like in one area, 5 or 6 or 7 seeds. And they will kind of grow in a bunch. And when I break them up, or when I go to plant in my garden, they'll be in a bunch. And even if you space them out a little from each other, that's fine. You just want to plant them in a bunch. And when you want to make a salad or soup or whatever you're going to use it for, you're going to pull it from where you planted in your garden by the bunch. And you can space them apart. You can do that too. And I have another little container. Oops. Wasn't sure what I wanted to put in this one, but I'm going to put the green bunching onion in here too. Because I love the bunching onions. They are so good. Plus you can freeze them, chop them up, freeze them. I still have some in my freezer I've been using. And just getting all that seed in there. And then once again, I'm going to be topping it off with a little bit of soil. If I find any like large pieces of wood, I just take it out of there, which is fine. Okay, so I got I still have quite a few seeds in here, so what I'm going to do is just put these back in the packet. I mean, there was 250 seeds, so I probably put about 100 back in here. And I am going to put tape on it because I don't want the seeds falling out. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do is the red beard bunching onion. And I already have my marker done. Just keep repeating. Put some in this little jar. Okay, they didn't put that many in here. It's saying about 150 are in here. So you can put the seeds in little bunches, even if you spread it out, just as long as you plant, you know, like 8 to 10 in a bunch when you go to put them in the ground. That's how they like to grow. Okay, there's that one. Okay, the camera kind of overheated. So I did the green bunching onions, and now my last thing, so I did Walla Walla, 2 containers, ruby red, 2 containers, red bunching onions and green bunching onions. I did this larger container and then a smaller one, this one. And that I think is like 3.5 inches deep. So I like it deep because it gives the roots room to grow down. So the next thing is the autumn giant leek. And I just have one smaller container for that. So I'll be putting it in this one. And now I am getting out the leeks. And I use some of the leeks, but they get very large, so I really, you know, for different recipes, you only need like a couple leeks, so I don't plant as many leeks as I do all the other stuff. So I put some in the jar. There are the leeks, and I am planting it in here. You know, it's like 3.5 inches deep. And I'm going to go ahead, for that container I probably have, I don't know, there might be 30 seeds here, so I'm just going to spread these out in here. And actually the leeks I might end up thinning out, I don't know. But if I don't thin them out, again, the roots are very resilient. So I mean, you can pull them apart gently. I seen someone where they were actually swishing it when it was time to transplant them into the garden, swishing the roots in water to take all the dirt off, and then they come apart fairly easy. Okay, so that's it. I am going to take them over to the sink and give them a good water. And then I am going to put them under my grow light. And the grow light, I'm going to put the light on. I'm not leaving them on 24 hours. I will put the light on probably like for 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours a day. And that's it. So just, make sure the potting mix stays moist. I mean, let it dry out a little, but for germination, I like to keep it moist. And once I start seeing germination, they start getting established. I'm not going to water every single day. I'm only going to water when I notice, like, stick my finger in, and if it's dry down to here, then I know it needs to be watered. And right now, I pre-moistened all the soil. I'm going to go ahead and wet everything down really good again. And hopefully within 4 to 10 days, I can show you, they should be germinating and starting to see little onions. And just make sure, you put your markers in. Last year, I did not mark my leeks. And, when you plant it, I mean, I wasn't sure if they were going to be leeks or green onions or what they were. So make sure you use your markers. So, all right, I'm going to go water these really fast, and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's it for the onions. I got those done, and like I said, in my area, Northeast Ohio, right now is the time, if you're from this area, let me put this up a little. If you're in Northeast Ohio, my area, I think right now is a perfect time to start your onions. So that's why I am starting them. And the next thing I want to start, I got to go through my herbs, but stevia is going to be the next one. This year, I ordered my stevia from Eden Brothers. I can't remember how many seeds are in here. Last year I did Johnny's, ordered from them, and they did really well. And the germination rate, stevia is a hard one to grow. It takes a while to germinate, and this one has a germination rate of 85%. So I wanted to get more seed, and I think that's why I went to Eden Brothers. Johnny had quite a bit too, but anyhow, I ended up going with Eden Brother. I think it even had more seeds in here. And on this packet it says 10 to 15 days to germinate, but in reality it could take up to 30 days. So last year I had pretty good luck with it. So I will be starting this seed probably this week to get that going, because it could take up to 30 days for germination, which would put me to, well, actually I can wait probably a couple weeks for that to start these. And then different flowers I'll be starting. But right now, it was time to get the onions started. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that was helpful as far as different fertilizers. And for a good resource, again, I would go to Dixon Dale, their website, or even if you Google, I think he has a couple of YouTube videos talking about fertilizing and different things with his onions. So for more information, I would watch a couple of videos on planting onions and transplanting and fertilizing. And but I hope this was helpful as far as, what I went over today. And that's about it. And thank you so much for joining me. And, got to show you something real quick. I started working on the different pots. These I want to have in my plant sale. And these are like decoupage pots. The paint I use seals the terracotta pots. And then you use it's napkinizing, I guess. But I think these are turning out really cute. So I will have these in my plant sale. Here's another one. And there are instructions, you know, I followed, so to make sure that when you put a plant in here and it's outdoors, this is all protected and it will last, so years and years. So, all right, that's it, guys. Thank you again, and I will talk to you on the next one. All right, bye.